Here's a look at the fan setup for Thursday. Well, actually, technically now it just turned into Friday, but this was the setup for Thursday evening, June 13, 2024. Is 68 degrees out, over 72%, which is a little damp, but I'm really enjoying using the fan so far, so I'm just going to deal with it. Inside it's still 73 over 65. So we got a bunch of box fans going here in the living room. Let's take a look at each one of them, and then I'll turn the lights off so you can see it with the street lights only. So over here we have the Lakewood 200i. These are all running on low because I like the sound of the crickets, and anything louder would drown it out. I still can't believe how little space there is in this cabinet. That's just ridiculous. But it being so thin does let it fit easily into the windows, including into the windows in the rest of the house, because it can sit right on the sill. And speaking of window sills, I had an idea about a half an hour ago. But this year I'm really trying to improve the usability of box fans in the windows. And so I figured out using that piece of wire in the rest of the house, which really, it's not great, but it's working. Now in here, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of that 1/2-inch plywood that I have left over in the garage, and I'm going to build platforms for these windows. So we'll put maybe like 1 or 2 sheets of plywood to build it up, and then a whole sheet to go from here all the way to the front, and then the fans can sit on that, which would be a lot more sturdy and easier to use than the way it is now. And I could even put like those felt protector things on the bottom so it don't scratch the windowsills and so forth. We can make them pretty nice, and so I'm thinking that I'll do that, because this works, but it's not great. This is like a 1.5 by 1/2 inch piece of wood here, and then I have a paint mixer on top of it, and that kind of matches the height in comparison to the track, so the fan sits level, and it's sturdy, but it's a pain in the neck to have to set that up every time. Plus, since the room isn't really built right, all the windows are a different height. So like this one, well, I ran out of paint sticks, so I'm using pencils now. But this one, see, the fan is sitting on there, and it's pretty much the same height as the other one in terms of what the total height of this is, but the fan is leaning forward. So this window must be higher up out of the sill than the other one. So I'm going to have to kind of custom build these things to each window. Well, so this is a Robeson box fan, and it seems like it looks like the blade is coming off the shaft or something. I don't know what's up with that. But this is running on low. This is very similar to the one that my aunt used to have. My aunt and uncle used to have one of these, and I remember it having this very slow low. I don't have a lot of recollection of that fan, but I remember my aunt used to volunteer at a church in the summer to help with one of the summer programmings, and she would bring this fan and put it in the window and use it on low. And I don't remember anything else about the whole event, but I just remembered a couple seconds in time where I was near the fan, and it was in the window, and it was on low, and it was doing practically nothing, just like it is now. Well, this one's clean, so at least it's doing something. I don't see how the the motor doesn't just burn out, or not burn out, but overheat on this speed because there's not enough airflow. There's barely any air coming out of the fan. How could it possibly be moving enough air over that shaded pull motor to keep it cool? It's kind of weird. Is this really out of balance? Not really. Slightly, but nothing crazy. I don't know why it looks like that. It looks awful. But anyway, so that's running there on low. And it actually is pushing the air a good amount away from the fan, despite being a very, very gentle breeze. This is not the exact model that my aunt and uncle had, but it's very similar. The switch is all kind of deteriorating, unfortunately, as is the handle. It looks like part of the grill is too. I don't use this in here during the daytime. I take it out of the window. That thing does not need any more sun exposure than it already has. I also don't understand how this is not a patent infringement to the Lakewood 223, because it's almost exactly the same thing. Next we have a Holmes box fan. Just like the Lakewood over there, this thing is absurdly thin. It's not quite as bad as the Lakewood, but it's just about as bad. And this actually is a lot better than I thought it was. I remember this just being a complete piece of junk, but it's actually moving a decent amount of air. It's horrifically out of balance, as you can see in here, but it's actually pretty strong on high. It moves a lot more air than I remember it doing. It's actually not bad. The balance is a joke, but that aside, it's not too bad. Even on low, it's still pushing a lot of air. I'm really, really surprised. I remember this being a complete piece of junk, but it's not half that bad if you can get past the balance, which is pretty hard to do. Yeah, it's not bad at all. So this fan was in one of my 5th grade classrooms. It was in the same classroom as that Hampton Bay air conditioner. A lot of nostalgia in tonight's setup with all these different models that I remember. I'm very happy to finally be getting to use all these fans and digging through my collection and pulling out all these different models that I've acquired over the years and really never had much of an opportunity to use. And next we have, this was one that I found in 2018 or 2019. It was near where I used to work. It was, I got it out of the trash and it needed some oil, and it's been a good fan ever since. This summer I found the same one, but it wasn't painted. It's supposed to be branded Lake Breeze, so we'll see that one get serviced soon. It's supposed to be getting hot, so we might be switching over to air conditioners soon. I'm not sure. I'm gonna keep with the fans unless the humidity starts to get really out of control. It's only we're only halfway through June, and I've been using the fans for, I'd say, a good month or so now. This spring has been so much better than last year. Last year's spring was awful. It was so cold. Last year I ran the heat until June 26. I think it's been a month since I've used the heat. This is much more seasonable. Even the last several weeks, it's been right around average seasonal temperatures. It's very, very pleasant. Now here is the Lasco 3733, dated 1999 to 2000. This is one of the three that my grandfather purchased back in the 90s or the early 2000s. This is probably one of the most, if not the most, nostalgic fan in my collection, because I grew up with this thing ever since I was, what, 5? I remember using this thing so much over the years, and we had 3 of them. My grandfather bought one for himself, for my mother, and for my uncle, so all 3 of us had them. So I remember seeing it at all the different houses, and we were all using them, and they're all still going. I have 2 of them, and then my uncle still has his, and they're all still going. They've been good fans. This thing has so many hours on it. This would just run and run and run day after day after day in the summer at the first house with the Westinghouse air conditioner. It used to often be in the, I don't know if I have any pictures of it, but it used to be in the living room, and it would be used to move the air from the conditioner down into the kitchen. And this thing is still running great. Medium even works perfectly still. I'm not going to switch the speeds because the switch is busted. That's how many times it's been turned on and off. The switch is actually worn out, so I got to get that replaced or something at some point. But so for now, I just kind of plug and unplug unless I got to change the speed. But a lot of nostalgia in this one for sure. All right, now we'll move into the kitchen. In the kitchen, I have a Doorcraft twin window fan. This is another one of those ones that I'm really excited to finally get to use. Never had much use for window fans at the old location because it was always the air conditioner. I remember using this one a couple times during the summer at the old location back in the late 2010s. I do have some good memories from this fan, even though that was only 5 or so years ago. It still brings back those good times. And then on the other side of the kitchen, we have a Holmes twin window fan in white. Now this is not the exact, well, it is the exact model, it's not the instance. I do have the original instance that I had back in the 2000s. This is the same model. This is the one that I serviced recently that was filthy. I picked this up this summer, or this spring rather, at the VNA sale, and it was filthy. It was a really good cleaning service. It came out really nice. I've been using it for days, and it's running perfect. No bearing rattle, nothing's locked up, it's just working great. I do need to wipe down the guard a bit because some of the oil has leaked out. I guess I went a little overboard with the oil on that one motor, but it's running great. I want to show the coast down here. I used to use these things all the time. This and the purple one in my bedroom at the first house, because the windows, like here, were too small to fit a box fan, so this was kind of the best option. Now this is the air volume that's moved by these things is pretty low, so it's not making much of a difference in here as far as the temperature is concerned. It's still 75 degrees in here. It's been 75 for like an hour. Actually, it's going up. It was 75.0 last time I checked. Now it's 75.2. But despite the low volume, it does have a pretty decent velocity, and I can feel this fan as well as the Duracraft fan from all the way across the room. Okay, now in the computer room, would not be a fan set up without everybody's favorite. Oh man, look at that. Brand new in the box. 1979 white Westinghouse with an AE. Doesn't get much better than that. And it doesn't get much worse than this. The Lasco 3733. Now, as we've discussed a million times, I actually don't think these are all that bad, especially for the price. Back when these were $16, now they're $23. And even for $23, you get a functional product. You can't get much for $23 anymore. But these kind of fit okay in the windows. It fits on the sill fine, and with the wire there, it looks kind of tacky, but it holds it in place. I've tried a bunch of different models in this configuration, and none of them seem to care that the top couple inches is blocked. It doesn't feel like it's coming out any different. I can feel air moving even up there, which is kind of weird. So I guess we'll just use them this way. This one is, I believe it's a 2010, so it's almost 15 years old and it's still running. And it's not the quietest thing out there, but the airflow is okay for what it is. Relatively low power draw. This is on just to dry out the shower. In the bedroom, we have the Lasco weather shield box VN, which is just kind of runs all the time. This one is very, very quiet. I think it's just because of how much dust is on there. I've never cleaned this since I got it. I got this new back in sometime in the 2010s. And I use this thing a lot in the bedroom, and you can see it's really quite filthy. All I do is I blow out the motor with compressed air, and despite all the hours, it just keeps running and running. So it's just kind of sits there on low, runs all night, runs all day, and it just does a good job of keeping the bedroom air refreshed. And it's quiet enough to use it at night. I couldn't tolerate I don't think I could tolerate a Lasco 3733 in here. It'd be too loud. I don't like loud fans at night. I like a quiet fan. And then we've also got this excellent Carrier Siesta, also with an AE, ready to go for when it's needed. I have a bunch of fans I bought back in the 2010s that I guess it's like kind of some kind of experiment just to see how long it lasts without cleaning it or oiling. I never oiled this one either. It sounds kind of funny on startup, but it goes away. It's been like that for years. This is another one that I have never cleaned, and very recently some of the dust that had built up on the edge of the blade like flew off and landed all over the place. I think, I don't know if it blew away, but some of it came on the table here, and I really got to clean up the house here. It's kind of messy, but so that was kind of weird. See all the big pieces on the guard now. But this thing is still going too. This I've used this a lot. When I have the air conditioner on in here, I use it to move the air into the hallway, and then in the winter time I use it to move the heat. So this is another thing that kind of runs a lot and never done anything to it. It just keeps going. Both kind of cheaper fans, but they're holding up good. Alright, and then lastly, before we go outside to look from the outside, we have the Holmes purple bladed window fan. Now, I don't know why, but this purple bladed one is much louder than the white one, and it has a very jarring sound to it, which brings back a ton of summer nostalgia, because this was the one I had before the white one. So I used this one all the time in the bedroom window as well back in the 2000s. I still have the original instance somewhere. This is not it. I have the original instance of both of those fans. You know, for whatever it's worth, even though it doesn't move a high volume of air, it does push the air pretty far away. This is a relatively large room, and I can feel the air pretty strong clear across the room. Let's take a look at the living room fans with the lights off. These are all lit by the street lights now, which I think looks really cool. That orange glow is also extremely nostalgic to the 2000s. This probably looks a lot better in person than it does on the video. I don't have the deck street light on, but this one really glows with the deck street light on. Alright, let's go take a look outside now. Got to get some lighting installed over here. I do have one light over here, but it doesn't work. These things are so loud. Having a clover infestation in the yard this year. Yeah, it really doesn't feel that humid out here. I wonder if that that sensor might be reading higher than it actually is because I was watering the grass tonight. And the sensor is right over there, hanging on that lattice thing, and I was using the sprinklers over there, so that might be why it was reading a little higher than it actually is. I am enjoying these street lights so much this year. There's one cricket over here. It's been here all night.